Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in Vampire the Requiem, a Requiem for London. It's my microphone acts up because, of course. Tonight, we set the scene in Leadenhall Building in the city of London. The tallest building, or one of the tallest buildings, within the city itself. A skyscraper that sits at a slant to protect the sky view of St. Paul's Cathedral. Within are the kindred of Clan Ventrue, whom have been summoned from every corner of the city, all across the domain, irrespective of covenant, to discuss their future within this domain as a family, as a dynasty. As you enter the building, would you all like to introduce yourselves? You enter a large, open forum. With several lifts that take you to various different floors, with escalators leading up to the first three.
Sorry, my phone cut out. Whereabouts are we in London?
Pardon?
Missed the first thing you said. I literally missed the first thing you said in narration. My phone went silent for some reason. Crap, sorry.
You are currently in Leadenhall Building. That is the place that the Ventrue have decided the meeting of the clan will be held.
Nice.
It is a large building in the city of London, a skyscraper that sits at a slight 10-degree slant to protect the sky view of St. Paul's Cathedral.
Oh yeah, no. Are we going right to the top?
Close. You're going up to floor 43.
I guess Ronald the Chonk will just be waiting in the elevator, smarting himself up a bit, polishing his sovereigns on his shirt sleeve. Just getting ready to meet everyone. As for
You take up the width of the elevator.
He does. He's a large man, a very large man, dressed in a what make of the suit? He's dressed in a very fine, very fashionable suit. Nice shoes, short beard, short cropped hair. Powerful man would be the word. Powerful, a sovereign on each finger, glinting, large hands. But he's kind of standing there patient, just waiting. A slight wry smile on his face. That's right, he's wearing an Alexander McQueen suit. Personally fitted.
Most stylish indeed.
So yes, he'll just wait in the elevator. Is he alone in the elevator? Yes, that's the question. Yes.
There are many predatory auras that become immediately perceptible to you as soon as you exit the lift. It is a cleared office space. All of the cubicles, all of the chairs have been moved. They're not even on this floor. Instead, there is there are a variety of tables and chairs, giving one a beautiful view of the city, as well as some furnishings that have been set up around an entertainment complex on the other end of the room. And at the very back, there is a large, very large boardroom. It's where the Ventrue appear to be gathering, although a few have taken seats outside.
He'll pause, take a view over the city he loves, over London. You and all your epicness. There's no place like it. And he'll take an appreciative nod at the city before shaking hands with any dignitaries who are around or anyone he knows from the clan. He has some status in the city.
I would say that amongst a lot of the familiar faces that are well known to Ronnie, he'll also see this fellow, not a particularly tall man, thankfully still with a healthy crop of hair on him, but yeah, whoever embraced that guy, they obviously took their time because he looks like 45. The beard that this gentleman is sporting is it's groomed, maybe not to perfection, or as if a personal stylist had there, but at least the guy in the black suit and black shirt seems to make an okay impression. His back is rather straight, and this individual, being Marcus Irons, is currently also looking over the city with that classic, somewhat spider in the web expression on his face. A very gentle smile playing across his lips. Clearly this kindred is enjoying the view. And hasn't been seen at least last year. Can't remember having seen this fellow.
Ronald will walk over. Well, I say walk. Stomp over. He's a large man, as I said before, probably a good 6'5", 6'6", around 4 to 5 foot wide. He'll just interject a large mutton chop hand, the big ham, covered in gold. There's a Rolex on there, some gold chains. And he'll just look down at the man. Roddy Chonk.
Marcus Irons. Pleasure to meet you. And he offers a hand, which probably will seem rather small in comparison.
Randy would take in his huge bear-like paw, give it a firm shake, put his upper hand over it, the double clasp, like, pleasure to meet you, mate, pleasure to meet you. Haven't seen you around here much.
Oh, I've only been in this city since last winter.
Oh, tough winter it was, tough winter.
Ah,
What's your game, mate? What's your business? What you do?
He smiles. The acquisition of more unusual sources of power.
Oh, I see. Are you a member of the Dracul de Order, sir?
Exactement, monsieur.
Oh, très bien, très bon. How come I ain't never seen you around here? Ain't seen you in the circle meetings. Though we probably run in different circles. I tend to do more of the legwork, if I do say so myself.
Understood. Who knows? Maybe I've just fallen off the family radar, so to speak.
Keep myself to myself normally. Seems to be the safest way with what's been going on around here recently.
Yeah, it's been a right mess. And the siege at the circus, ooh, I got front row seats on that one.
Oh, do tell, Squire, do tell.
Well, less squire and more captain, but I appreciate. Well, let's just say I happened to find myself in the haven of one Joshua Baneforth before. Next thing I knew, my gracious host was being attacked, and well, it wouldn't have behooved me to do anything else than aid him. Well, especially since I didn't know if they were also coming for me. You know, the old paranoia.
I get that. Sometimes you've got to put it out on people, ain't you? And they'll get a bit lippy, get a bit of mouth in them.
Yeah, and that's the moment where you have to smack them down and show them their place.
Exactly, my son, exactly. You know, one thing I love about being a vampire, you can never tell Uzu. You get some small little thing. She's 5 foot tall, dressed in a cocktail dress. She can bench press someone like me. Fucking amazing.
Quite
Never
true.
tell who you're talking to.
That's true. Although I am very excited to see what we as a clan have planned. I'll actually let you in on a little one. And that is so far I've not really had that much interaction with my fellow clanmates. So this is probably going to be very interesting. He rubs his hands in anticipation.
It's just business, mate. Just business. Same as always.
Well, won't hurt to know who is roughly pulling which strings and how to best avoid accidentally stepping on my clanmates' toes.
Get that. You hit the wrong person, next thing you know, they're coming right up behind you. Bang! You don't even see it. Just whack.
Yeah, and especially in these times, last thing I need is to get my fellow Ventrue ready to sharpen their knives behind me.
Well, I do like a very sharp knife, my son. A very sharp knife. However, he opened his jacket a bit. I'm completely weaponless tonight. No knifing you behind the back.
Fair enough.
As you continue to speak, more Ventrue. Interestingly, only some Ventrue are being invited to the boardroom. Interestingly, both of you, are invited by someone you don't recognize. They appear to be a chatelaine of sorts. They have no predatory aura.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Well, Ronnie will take another look at outside the window. You gotta love London, greatest city on earth. Been Paris, done Rome, done New York, done LA. Did a short stint in Singapore. London, though, best city around.
Yes, the original metropolis.
Exactly, Londonian, mate. History. The world's history's here, figuratively and quite literally in some places, eh?
True. Very true. Huh. Even grew up in the city. Not too far away, and he points to the greater area of Putney. Got some rather nice memories there. Although I have to say, almost ashamed to see Kingston upon Thames these nights. Well.
Kingston. Posh boy IRC. Not me, Squire, not me. Born in the wrong end of the tracks.
Me? Posh? Nah. Just had me honeymoon there. Oh, well. Back when I had a wife.
Yeah, never could get one of those wives. Always working too hard.
Married to your job, I see.
Yeah, could say that. Good job it was. Still pays pretty well. When I decide in a few days a year I decide to do it.
But yes, there's something to be said to get a good overview of things. Sometimes on the street level, things get muddied.
Agreed. Got to remember where you come from, though. All lads like us, we can't get too into this. We've got pointed shirts. Can't get too much into the finery.
Well, happy to meet another Cockney geezer. He will say in a way better accent than I can do.
weren't born in the old sound of the bell, son. Not quite a Cockney. Definitely a Londoner, though.
Pretty close.
Close enough for not to count. I guess by the modern vernacular.
Well, it's not as if I was born in the city itself. Not that posh. And he chuckles.
City never changes. Even when I was a young lad, cities change. I need to think how much change some of these old sods have seen.
As you talk, you are led into the boardroom. There are a multitude of kindred here, but these 5 stand out. You may roll me intelligence politics to identify them.
May I also spend a willpower? Because this is really important for my guy.
Marcus, you note the certain ancient Ventrue is not here.
Intelligence politics. I do not have politics. He doesn't care.
Three successes. That is, yeah. But yes, the fact that this tectonic shifting power of sheer dominance is not around slightly puts Marcus more on ease.
Actually,
Oh. Can I be... Okay, I'm still here. Good.
But yes, Bishop, 3 successes.
3 successes. You can identify most of them. Or actually, you can identify all of them. You just don't have a ton of information on all of them, but
a name and maybe faction of the affiliation should do it, right?
yeah, so the Indian gentleman, an upper-comer in your very sect, Ganesh Bhate. Fellow Ordo. The woman with done-up black hair, the largest image on the overlay, Cynthia Gauntlet, runs a PMC, the backbone of the prince's muscle around the city, when the sheriff cannot be relied upon or is busy.
Auxiliary muscle.
Nova Morales. The child of Tracy and Stanford. And Esther Grimald, the woman with the red hair.
Yep.
Got a hand on her face. Elder and notary of the Invictus. The man in the cloak, or the robes, the Roman-looking robes.
Mm-hmm.
You know him only in passing via whispers from clanmate to clanmate. His name is... Avitus. He is an elder of Ventrue and a member of the Crone who is springing back into prominence.
As of recent.
Very recent.
Ooh, okay, gotcha.
And that is all of them.
Gotcha. I would say if any of them deign to look in his direction, he'll give a polite incline of the head.
You are definitely low on the totem pole clan-wise here. Do you have any clan status?
Yes, I have one.
Okay. Then, Ronnie, you're acknowledged by your clan. And they are more respectful to you, just in general, than they are to Marcus, but they're not actively disrespectful to Marcus.
Nah, Marcus is okay with that. He knows he's the new kid on the block. And to be fair, I've got the feeling with the aloofness curse slightly working, he'll probably not really care that much.
Esther will walk up to you, Esther Grimald, and she will say, "Please, come sit with us. We have much to discuss."
Oh, of course.
For very separate reasons, though.
That is fine. Pleasure to meet you.
A pleasure.
He'll put his
Mr.
huge
Ronald?
paw in.
She is much smaller than you and much more dainty. She's not short for a woman, it's just that you're very large.
He'll kind of lean down a bit and kind of give her give her like his finger to shake.
She's got a firm grip.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah. She definitely comes across as physically somewhat stronger than you.
He raises an eyebrow. He's impressed.
Mr. Irons.
How may I be of service?
I believe that is what we are here to discuss. She will guide you to your seats. The seating is arranged as to respect among clanmates, so you are further up the table, Ronnie, than Marcus is, who sits quite far at the back.
Is
Marcus
there any
will
others
follow.
of his bloodlines?
No. All the kindred in this boardroom are either completely Ventrue or they're of a separate bloodline. That is less apparent.
You'll look around, noticing that he's the token Mercarius there. Hope they've given him a reinforced chair
They
and sit
have.
his mighty backside down.
Your chair is quite apparent, Ronald. It's large and built for someone of your particular needs. Actually, Ronald, have you hunted this evening? This is your first scene, so roll. Actually, no, I completely forgot to do this. Roll me a d10.
Oh, you a d10. Okay, 1 second.
That will be how much blood you start with.
Yay. Dice roll a 1.
You can hunt if you want to, Marcus.
Will do. Good news, Marcus is on full blood and feeling rather well fed tonight.
Okay, now we've got the dice roll. Yay! Oh, wait a minute now.
Oh wow,
I rolled it.
you start on full blood. You are not suffering from your bloodline vein.
Yay!
Which is,
top
well,
10?
Yeah, you got a 10, so
Yay!
full blood. What is your blood potency actually? Just one?
My 1, yes.
Okay, then yeah, you're on full blood. Even if you had 2, I'd still put you on full blood because you got a 10.
Nice.
So, yeah, this is one of those rare occasions when you're not suffering from some sort of thirst.
He knew he was coming out to a party, didn't want to embarrass himself. He gorged himself
Exactly.
well on
Yeah.
meat.
Because that's only polite amongst kindred and amongst Ventrue doubly so.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Good bit of meat. It's the best meat.
Esther will go to the front of the boardroom table, taking the center seat. In terms of order, it is the young Morales who sits just beside her or just slightly further down the table. Who's then matched with Cynthia Van Avitus. Curious to see 2 neonates above an elder. There are other Ventrue here, but they of either moderate status or beneath you. Unfortunately, Marcus is above no one, but he at least has a couple of friends at the bottom of the totem pole. Ganesh sits about midway. Just up from you, Ronnie. Not that further up ahead, though.
Ronnie will give him a pleasant nod as they're part of the same clan and sect.
He nods at you. He's quite happy to see you here, for whatever reason. But, Miss Grimald, we'll simply pronounce good evening to all members of the board here this evening. As I'm sure you're all aware, we are here to discuss the future of our clan within this city, moving forward in these trying times. Mr. Barte, We'll be taking a minute. If you have any points of clarification you would require, you may request as such from him. However, if we may begin, moving through the matters, the points of discussion this evening. First, perhaps the least severe, but the most curious. The return of the Marcellarius bloodline to London.
Ronnie will just kind of look around. He's been here for a few years. He kind of looks innocent as he can.
While certain members of the bloodline of this particular dynasty have been present throughout London's long history, it was not but a few decades ago that they suffered a mass exodus. With the reawakening of Norman Romy intelligence politics, Ronnie.
I don't have politics.
Oh,
I'm the
shit.
worst Ventrue. It's fine.
Okay, so
Wait a minute. Can I just do a single roll or something like that?
no. So what happens when you are untrained in a mental skill? You just roll your mental attribute, the attribute that you use, but you get a -3 dice penalty.
I only have 3.
You can apply your Ventrue status to this roll. It is very relevant to this.
I will do that. So that would be 1 dice then. Can I spend a willpower?
Yes,
Thank you.
that'll give you +3 dice, which will completely negate the dice penalty.
Oh, nice. So that gives.
So you'll be rolling 3 full dice.
Thank you. Ask for a
That was only
dramatic
3
failure.
dice,
You
that's
know you want to.
I do like dice gold. It knows what you want. It knows what we want. That's what I want. Well, more importantly.
It does.
So, you haven't heard much about this. You're not aware of the name Norman. It is a new name to you. You are aware of the exodus the Marcellarius suffered, although that is a polite way of putting it. Prior to the Great War 20 years ago between the Invictus and the Carthians, the Marcellarius were actually not numerous per se, but were well established within the city and a respected member of the Ventrue clan, a respected branch of the Ventrue dynasty. They held multiple Keeper of Elysiums and were considered extremely well-renowned sommeliers of vitae. Many of them specialized in accruing particular blood types and mortals for other kindred to feed off of in exchange for various debts. It was something of a cool family monopoly. However, being primarily members of the Invictus in the war, they were in the unpleasant position of being considered very capable meat shields, and at the same time having nowhere to really hide. Not all of them died, of course, and you certainly haven't faced any issues since that time. But the Marcellarius line was substantially gutted, and many members of its, particularly its more affluent and elder members, simply left the city and took their wealth and debts elsewhere. And they never really recovered. Until it seems to be now. At least. That's apparently where the discussion is going. Grimald will speak again. Mr. Ronald. Ronald. And she squints her eyes at her paper. Chunk.
Ronnie, please.
Ronnie. We were wondering if you perhaps had any additional information as to the revival of your bloodline within this here domain, or what their intentions might be for it.
Just bullshit? Or do I actually know anything? Because I'm down for either.
You know about as much as I've given you, which is not
Lovely.
much. You certainly don't know anything about Norman.
Look, to be honest with you, Madam Speaker, apart from meeting up for the occasional dinner meeting, I don't really know what the rest of my clan are up to.
You mean Bloodline?
Those who need me come to me. But me to find out what my members are up to. Of course, I'm more than willing to help you out.
She looks slightly disappointed. That is unfortunate.
It is fair. Project failures are a big.
However, given that this is a matter that I'm sure the entire clan can agree upon, it is in the interest for us to, it is in our interest to ensure that this once broken branch of our family line be brought back up to speed.
Say no more, say no more.
At the very least, we would hardly wish for the Marcellaris to be walking back into an open war between sects, lest history repeat itself.
You'll give a nod. I will endeavour to make inroads with them and let them know the lay of the land. Do you wish to meet them personally, or would you rather me get to know them a bit before you venture out yourself? Yeah.
We would have you establish their intentions for the city and what particular party lines they stand upon so that they might be prepared.
Oh, nod. Yeah.
But I'm sure they remember their old loyalties.
As well they should. The Ventrue are our parent clan after all. We may date back to ancient Rome. Oh, sorry. Yes?
You can actually roll me with sympathy here. Marcus can as well.
Do I have empathy? This can be my one character ever with empathy. He does have empathy. Holy shit.
Oh, what you rolling?
3 dice this time. Hang on a second.
Bless Ronnie, he's really trying. He's giving it his all.
He is. He's trying.
Statistically, the
designed
dice
for-
are in. Oh, you didn't add the Discord. Marcus, you... I'll give you the result after Andrew Ross.
Go for it. 1 success, by the way.
No, that's not me. Oh, die cord. Yep.
Yeah, you just need to add it.
I did. Where?
Oh, there you go. I shouldn't roll for you.
Hey. There you go. Oh,
There you
one
go.
success. Yay.
Yeah. Alright, I think you might have double spaced somewhere in the dice cord, because it's not quite aligned. Yeah, you double spaced between the at and the tag and the and the roll. That's why. But you get a success. So both of you infer that she's not actually referring to the clan, more than she is inferring to her sect.
What sect is she from?
Invictus.
He'll note this. Very well, madam. I shall find other members of my clan. I'll find out where they lay. Show them a bit of what's going on here. And maybe we can all be one happy union again. Wouldn't that be nice? One big family around a table sharing a meal.
Yes, that would be quite nice. She looks around the table. Is there anything those present would wish to add to the conversation? Or may we move on?
Oh, Ronnie will just look around from person to person, kind of like, I wouldn't say eagerly, but to see if anyone actually has anything to say.
I believe delegating this matter to an established member of the Blood would be the most appropriate method to resolve this matter, or at least establish if there are any remaining issues between their blood and the rest of the clan. She looks between everybody. On this matter, everybody seems to be in agreement.
Ronnie will nod along with them.
Yeah, so will Marcus.
She moves through shuffles through some papers. Next on the docket. Ah, yes. The return of Roderick Stanton. Marcus, you know exactly what that name is. Ronnie can roll. Actually, no, Ronnie doesn't need to roll. Because he's old enough. Roderick Stanton, to Ronnie, is the founder of London's Ordo.
Oh.
He stepped down from his position a very long time ago centuries ago. He was presumed either torpid or dead. He has not been present in Ordological politics for an extremely long time.
So I've never met the guy, basically.
No,
I've just heard rumours of him.
this guy is ancient history.
There's a name from way back.
Marcus, you remember?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Marcus, you remember that name because it was passed to you on a piece of paper informing you that he, in fact, was back. Among
Marcus,
other things.
Yeah. So he'll try his best, but there's the evermost slight giveaway of one of his eyebrows raising ever so slightly above the other.
Perception, empathy to notice that?
Yeah, go for it. Screw it. You know what? It's actually pretty obvious.
I'll roll. I like rolling. He will also look down to Ganesh as well. Because, Ganesh is higher than him in both things. You're alright, Jason. I have a pretty poor pull for this.
You can roll twice. One for Marcus, one for Ganesh. I just need to
First
be a bit
one
real
is
quick.
First one is going to be for Marcus. And second. One success for Marcus. And one success for Ganesh.
Yeah, for one success, Ronnie can at least figure out so much. The news, the mention of this name, it's not striking fear or anything in him, but that's definitely an expression like, "Oh, the rumors are true," is what you would guess from his facial expression.
Basically, that you know something about this. This isn't the first time you've heard of this.
It is not the first time he's heard of it.
And for Mr. Ganesh. Okay.
Oh dear. How unfortunate.
He'll be right back.
Yeah, I see on the
Yeah. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, just minor technical difficulties. Our other player will be back soon. At least, thank goodness, we don't have to switch commercials into here. If not, this would get very awkward.
There we go. So, what you infer from your successes with Ganesh is that he definitely knows something about this topic which he has yet to say. Granted, it's only been a few seconds, although a lot of attention appears to be focused more on Marcus than anybody else right now.
He'll also look at the rest of the crowd, not wanting to spit, not wanting to stand out.
Oh, pardon?
As everybody turns towards Marcus, he'll also look at Marcus.
Marcus just calmly looks around and is a little baffled at all the attention that is drawn to him.
As a member of the Order, I have well heard this man's name many, many times. However, as far as I heard, he was in torpor. Is there any reason that we should be concerned of his re-arrival?
Why? That is precisely why Mr. Irons is here, to assuage us of our concerns.
Out of character, I've got the feeling I'm missing something. Would Marcus know what they are alluding to?
Well, you've been given information on Roderick Stanton in the past.
Okay, out of character.
Not that much.
Yeah, I can't recall any of it. Sorry.
Okay. Well, to put it bluntly, it was heavily implied that your sire was Stanton under an alias.
Oh. Okay. I know how Marcus will react to that. He'll just look around and say, well, I've heard the rumors that the individual that presented himself as my sire might, and I can't stress this enough, might have been the aforementioned kindred. However, I haven't seen that individual in over half a year, ever since I came here to London, so I'm terribly sorry I can't give more information, because I don't have any further information.
What's the crowd like at this?
Esther is more annoyed than she is disappointed. Some of the Ventrue are like, oh, it's like, kind of like gawking at like, sort of like kids, like, oh, the kid didn't do his book report, let's like snigger to ourselves like high school kids. there's that sort of like, yeah, that childish fraternity attitude against some of the lower ranking Ventrue. The two neonates at the top don't really seem to care all that much. This issue doesn't seem to sound particularly pertinent to them. Avitus takes note, though.
Forgive me for speaking out of turn, all those gathered, but how to phrase this wasn't quite the word, the man of eloquence, but with me hands. This Roger, seeing that he is an Roderick. What, Roddy's? Roderick. Considering this Roderick is an particularly old and well-known creature, it would be suffice to say that he would not embrace without reason, let alone embrace and then leave his child to wander.
To be more precise, I fled his not-so-tender mercies.
Oh.
He had me locked up, and that is where a bit of old-seated anger, resentment is slowly bubbling up in Mr. Ryan's. How should I say, the vitae pumping a little bit more lively through his visage.
Oh, see, no harm meant, no harm meant.
No problem, but I extricated myself through my own means and gained my liberty that way. I don't care particularly for sires who sire and then basically throw you in a cell for half a year, treating you worse than his pets. So let it be known that I haven't got a lot of love for the individual, but I also don't seek to actively go against him. At least not at this point in time. For the sake of clan unity. And he calms down a little bit.
People who succeeded on that empathy check against Ganesh, I think it was just Ronnie. If I recall. He still hasn't said anything.
Ronnie just thinks he's probably in league with the guy. Ronnie's probably also thinking, how can be in league with the guy? No, he'll be a bit more subtle than that. He's not quite the sledgehammer.
Okay. But you're Ronnie Chunk. You're a that's what? How
he's a
dare
sledgehammer
you?
when it needs. He's a sledgehammer when he needs to be, not when he's not going to badmouth somebody who's older than him on the totem pole in front of him. Ventrue knows my place in the boardroom.
Yeah, this little outbreak definitely shows Marcus's tender years, let's put it that way.
Behind closed doors, however, I do indeed have a conversation with Mr. Ganesh.
Actually, Cynthia will take a moment to look at Marcus with his little outburst. And she says, quite bluntly, grow up, act with some decorum.
OC. Oof.
You are hardly the only child of a difficult upbringing. If you wish to mope, I believe there is a Deva available for purchase I can find for you.
Funnily enough, at that comment, he can't help himself but smile a little bit. He's clearly amused at the last part.
He has a little chuckle.
All right. I hear you.
The circumstances of your relationship to your sire are irrelevant. What the clan is asking for are results. If you know nothing, then find something.
Myself, Mr. Marcus, and Mr. Ganesh, the only members of the order here.
The
So
Ventrue
just
are
out of
somewhat
our-
underrepresented order-wise, but your numbers do even things out a little bit.
Cool. Then old Ronnie will go, well, I'm sure that with such fine members of the order here, we'll be able to find out everything you need on Mr. Roderick. Without too quick haste, he'll look to Ganesh and then look down to Marcus.
He nods silently.
Ganesh will
Focused.
say, in a thin but noticeable Indian accent, of course. I'd be more than happy to work with my sect mates on this matter.
Pleasure,
The
Mr.
return
Ganesh.
of our
Absolute pleasure.
The return of our founder, a most fascinating event indeed. And at this
Yes.
particular time, I doubt that is a coincidence.
Unlikely. But yes, I shall lend you my aid in this.
Always will
So
help
much-
you, mate. Always willing to help.
So much like with the Marcellarius, we must establish Mr. Stanton's intent and see in what way we might assist him. If his goals align with the clan, of course. But I'm sure we would all prefer Master Stanton to be in a position of luminous authority to make the clan proud. Just as he once was. At the very least, we do not want an elder of our clan wallowing in mediocrity. Certainly not in hiding, as it has been so implied.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Perhaps, as his child, you might be able to contact him, where the rest of us cannot. After all, the ties of the blood are strong. Or perhaps he will contact you.
Marcus spends a point of willpower and really suppresses a rather ugly grimace. I shall see what I can do. Although it has been several months since I last saw him, so I can't promise anything.
6 months to those like us is nothing, mate. It's like a flash of the eye. 6 months for a normal person is like nothing.
I don't expect him to be in the last location I saw him, but I'll check the place out, see if I can find any leads.
I'm sure we can spread some feelers out. Lay down a bit of bait. Put a worm on a hook. See what bites.
Marcus nods at Ronnie's comments.
Abatus will speak up. Stanton. I knew him very well. In our, and he smiles, youth. He was not a man to prowl in the shadows. I would act with the utmost caution. If you wish to locate him, if what you say is true, if what has been said here is true, it is most out of character.
So you think you might have had a bit of a personality change in the last couple of years? Then maybe it's long enough you might have woken up on the wrong side of the bed, so to speak.
No. No, I don't think so. He was a man of will. The fog of ages changes much in us, but the core remains the same, and the strong often lose little to nothing at all. But if he is in hiding, then he must have a very powerful reason for doing so. I can only imagine two possibilities, and one I refuse to consider.
Well, just for the minutes, what would that possibility be?
Closer to impossible. There are a few things that could change a kindred's mind so completely. One being our gifts. But obviously, Stanton is an esteemed and old and powerful Ventrue, a peer. He could not be easily turned by our own gifts, no. The only thing that could turn him is that which are those things so dark that fly with the eagles. The owls that hunt us all. It is possible that one could have found his resting place, but not even those among his covenant knew. No, he kept this to the closest among his clan, such as myself. It is more likely that he is hiding from them or something else. But if he turned you so recently... He looks at Marcus.
Marcus looks back, silently waiting for the following words.
You have the poise of a soldier. I'm not incorrect, am I?
Captain Marcus Irons, formerly of Her Majesty's 22nd Special Air Services.
And what does the embrace of a soldier imply to you, Mr. Irons?
I would say that he wanted a child with certain capabilities, maybe also with a certain amount of life experiences that your average civilian might not have.
He is planning for a war.
There is
Or
another
to
question.
hunt. There is a brief moment where he stops and looks at you when you interrupt him.
He shuts up.
Turns back to Marcus. But there is only one of you. So either there are more of you, or you were not designed to fight a war more than you were designed to hunt something or someone.
There is an expression of a dawning realization on his face. He's not hiding it.
Stanton was a paranoid man, even by our standards. But I'd like to think he always served a higher power, a greater purpose. Perhaps he has seen something that in the midst of this war we have missed. But we can no longer allow him to remain unchecked. I agree with Lady Grimald. You must find him. And if he is compromised, you must destroy him.
If that is the case, I've got the tools to do it.
Ganesh will speak up. But what if he is not? What does that mean? We, among the Order, are in a fragile position. The Sanctified wish us dead. The Kogean. She is a capable war leader. But she is of the blood of the Maked, of the Prince. It is no secret that our organizations share close ties. Cynthia. Miss Gauntlet goes to say something, but Grimald will sort of cut her off with her hand and sort of gesture to hear him out. Something that aggravates Gauntlet somewhat. Of course, I do not wish for, at least I personally do not wish for, our relationship with the Invictus to be damaged. But at the same time, I believe most of us here would prefer a prominent Ventrue guiding hand within our sect, leading us as he once founded us. But of course, with the reality of the Sanctified, I do not wish to provoke an internal conflict. I do not think we wish to provoke an internal conflict. At least, Many of our clan among the Order would assuredly meet a hideous fate at the hands of the Sanctified. There is actually several Sanctified Ventrue present. But they are tense, but they remain silent. Cynthia at this point is permitted to speak. Well, I'm sure you can find a way to place Mr. Stanton back into your sect without necessarily making things harder for yourself. I do not wish for this to devolve into sect matters, but needless to say, the relationship between the Invictus and the Order is already strong. I would not see it jeopardized. Certainly not from anyone here. But as Lady Grimald will say, that it is within the clan's interests for Mr. Stanton to hold a prominent position if he is safe. But all of this is moot until he can be located. And the only one who can do that here, seemingly, is you, Mr. Irons. And I will be frank, I am quite loath to rely on those of other clans to do so for us.
If you want a job well done, you still have to do it yourself.
Precisely, and I do not wish for the Maquette to locate this individual before us, lest they do something uncalled for.
They are good at what they do, but they can never truly be trusted. It's not in their nature.
Nova Morales will speak up. I believe we have... Oh, sorry, I'm sorry if these are all the same voices. I'm trying to be quiet. Nova Morales will speak, and she will say, I believe all that can be discussed has been on this particular topic. I believe the board is at an accord. Shall we move on?
Nods.
Nods.
Then to the meat of this particular evening. The matters of war and the prince. Whom is to lead our fine city? Whom deserves our support as a clan? Or should the clan, the individual, branches of our family be trusted to make their own choices? There are two candidates for the city's princedom, and everybody who has been here for any period of time, be it a week, a month, a year, a decade, or a century, know of whom I speak. The Maquette, Prince Cedric Graves, current prince, although in a tenuous position. Both Lady Morales and Lady Gauntlet react to that. Gauntlet is borderline offended by the idea, by the statement. Morales is very tense, as if she is anticipating something. And there is Speaker Dracian. There we go. I went silent for a few seconds. My bad.
I could have thought it was me. I was like, no, not again.
Yeah, I was getting worried. All is well.
My microphone wire is not the best in the world. Morales reacts in a very hostile fashion to this.
Mm-hmm.
It is her turn to be offended. With respect to Lady Grimald, the title of Prince in this particular conflict is outdated. Stanford can easily ascend to power without assuming such an outmoded title. And I fully support him in this endeavour. He shall become the new elected leader of London. Of course, all members of Clan Ventrue will be welcomed, at least those who are displaced via the conflict into Carthage should they choose to join, if that is their wish. I have already discussed this with Mr. Stanford. It is his wish to see this conveyed to you all this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Gauntlet will speak out. Although perhaps it should be known that it was the Carthians who initiated this war and destroyed an Elysium, presumably with the consent of Mr. Stanford, vocal or otherwise. While I respect and appreciate the experience and value our elders bring to the table, of course she gestures to Miss Grimald. Mr. Stanford is clearly a kindred who places his political ideologies over the value of the blood, as no doubt some among us here do as well. The Ventrue, as evidenced by myself, hold plenty of power among the princedom of London. I've already perceived several gambles being taken at this board meeting. Marcellarius, Roderick Stanton, we're already playing with a great deal of risk. Sabotaging a prince who is quite frankly holding the reins of this conflict seems like a very poorly thought out idea, and more likely to get many of us cold and executive than it is to be a benefit to the clan. And I'll be blunt. Lady Grimalda understands this quite well. Many of us have oaths of loyalty. These oaths cannot be broken. Breaking these oaths isn't only a surefire way to earn one's death, it is a surefire way to earn an entire clan's death. We have spoken much about mistrust among us and the cat, but we do not hold a reputation of mistrust and deceit and treachery if we earn this reputation by blindly stumbling along of our own personal ambitions for power. We will earn that reputation, and it will not just be the Maquette or the Invictus or the Carthians that come down upon us as a result. I stand by Prince Graves on this matter. And then Avatar says something quite interesting. It matters not what is said here, the result is already inevitable. The Carthians will be broken, Stanford will assume his princedom. And my lord, our lord Valerius, shall ascend to his rightful place. Ronnie, you don't need to roll to know who Valerius is. Valerius is the oldest kindred in the United Kingdom.
Oof.
Nobody knows how old he actually is. 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years. People aren't sure. But he's extremely old, and people know that. For many centuries, he was the prince of this city. But he hasn't been prince in many centuries.
And now he's putting his hat back in the ring?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Avitus has said that Stanford will claim the princedom, not Valerius. And yet Valerius will ascend to his rightful place. I think you both succeeded in your politics roles to know who Avitus was. He was an elder of the crown. Perhaps he's speaking in a more spiritual sense.
Very interesting.
Cynthia will speak, though. Valerius, the house, lost its power long ago to incompetent leadership. Broken before the Carthians 2 decades ago, there is no point in lingering within the past. You still think in mortal terms. Our pasts do not remain buried, they do not remain dead, they walk and talk just like you and I. And what you believe to be new is perhaps older than you think. I merely serve the Lord I was always meant to serve. And he rewards his subjects well, as will the prince that will take his place. I do not speak of this as a political position. I do not advocate for anyone. I merely speak of what is, what I know, what I believe. I do not intend to slight either of you. Both Gauntlet and Morales seem somewhat lost. They're not particularly interested in taking the Kooky Elder seriously here.
Taking mental notes and lurking like a pro.
Just being quiet, watching it all.
I would like to add that this conflict is perhaps not all as it seems. Of course, I understand that we are all biased. I am biased. I am, of course, a noteworthy member of the Invictus, and I have stood by it all my own life. But might I add that this conflict is on a more even footing than it might seem, Lady Gauntlet. But neither do the Carthians hold a substantial, a defining advantage. From my perspective, what the Carthians do hold the weight of momentum in this conflict, I think it would be fair to say. You and I both understand the damage caused at Elysium, and not just to the lives the Carthians took from the domain. And of course, the Sanctified, new allies to the Carthians declaring war upon the Ordo. Do we wish to be a part of that? Is it wise for the Carthians to align themselves with those who have warred themselves upon 3 separate covenants with no hope of victory? Or have the Carthians already made the decision to cut them loose? Morales is hesitant to answer these questions. Stanford did not approve of the attack upon Elysium, but he had to accept the will of the majority. You and I both know that he is not that sort of man. And that we both hold Elysium as sacrosanct. The Sanctified, to answer the rest of your questions. Perhaps a warning to my clanmates in the room that align themselves with the Church. For the personal crusade that they have decided to lead upon the Ordo, that their bishops have decided to lead without our consultation in an attempt to manipulate us into fighting their battles. shall not be supported in that conflict. A statement that shall be made public in the next few nights. I urge those among my clan to not involve themselves in this conflict, particularly if they are on the side of the sanctified, for you will find yourselves without friends and allies, and no doubt as our brethren here can attest to. She gestures towards Marcus and Ronnie. Retaliation from the Ordo shall be as precise as it is destructive.
Ronnie will just rattle, just gently move his fingers across, gently just tap his fingers on the table, just the sovereigns just clinking. Just idly, ding ding ding, ding ding ding, ding ding ding.
Does Marcus have anything to add to that?
I'm just trying to remember the exact wording of what she said. That the retaliation would be as precise as... there we go.
The Order are not known for having the weight of numbers, but they are known for having the weight of many interesting tricks and powers that other kindred are not known to have.
Yeah.
They can fight very asymmetrically, and that is perhaps what she is saying. Particularly for someone like you who's a soldier, you would understand that.
He'll just slowly nod and say, we can on occasion hit them so fast that they don't know what happened. And he just gives almost a malevolent smile, or how should I say, it is a smile of a being that is pretty much secure in what he's stating.
Well, the Sanctified will speak up. 1 second, as I get their face. I urge you caution of your words. The Sanctified, upon its founding, was long outnumbered by everyone else, yet it stood and grew strong. For it knew the truth, and for all of the Ordo's power, it lacks both the charisma and the conviction to be something more.
Well, we can always try to be more than what we are. Self-improvement is rather important, one would say.
I will not get into philosophical debate with you or theological debate with you this evening, sir.
Of course.
Outnumbered or not. The Sanctified wield the wrath of God itself. And those who have witnessed us know this to be more than hyperbole. That is all I have to say.
Yeah.
So, I suppose we should take a vote on matters of support. Whom shall the clan back, and how? Well, I suppose we shall start with the first of those questions. Who are Ronnie and Marcus going to support? What is their claim? Or do they just not want to support anyone? Or do they just want to be able to choose, want the clan to choose individually? To take a more factionalistic approach to spread the risk.
Who are the two main candidates?
Stanford and Prince Cedric Graves. Stanford is a Ventrue, but he is a Carthian, a passionate Carthian. It seems strange. It seems strange that Grimold and Avatar seem to be pushing for him. Granted, Morales supports him, but as a Carthian, not as an Invictus, not as a prince, not as a Ventrue, as a Carthian. So, you could support Stanford as a Carthian, you could support him as an Invictus, you could support Valerius, but Avatar seems to indicate that it is not the will of Valerius that he become prince. And then there is Prince Cedric Graves, the most obvious of all candidates. After all, he is the current prince. But he's not a Ventrue. And the Ventrue have had limited access to the
tasty grapes of influence, finance, and so on of the city of London.
To the halls of power, shall we say. Cynthia Gauntlet has expressed that the Ventrue can quite easily succeed if they put in time and the effort, and those that don't, well, either they're not trying or they weren't worthy of being Ventrue in the first place. But one can't help but notice that the Ventrue aren't quite... It's not that they're not numerous, it's that the Maquette are much more numerous than any other clan. Although there is a fairly decent spread of kindred among the Primogen Council. But more along sector lines, not clan lines. That is how both the Primogen and the domains have been divided. Which, of course, from an auto perspective is good, because being of low numbers, it's good to have a prince backing your domain via sect. Even if you don't have the numbers to control it, you can just go to the prince and say, hey, this is sect domain. But it does prevent them from accessing very powerful worms nests that lie outside of their domain.
Oh. Sorry.
No, that's good. I don't know the lay of the land yet, politically OC or IC, so that's interesting.
Okay, fair enough. But so if I get it correctly, if put it that way, if Stanforth carries, the votes carry Stanforth, chances of the Ordo getting their hands on new worms nests increase quite a lot. Correct?
Pardon?
Do I understand correctly? If the Ventrue vote Stanforth, to support his bid for Praxis, then it could well be that the Ordo finds itself with at least more possibility of acquiring new worms' nests, right?
Possibly. It depends on how Stanford were to structure domain within the city. Currently, Kindred can only hold domain within the boundaries of a sect that they belong to. And the leaders of those sects, of those
and that is
covenants,
limiting.
hold. Yes, it is powerful in a sense, but it is also quite limiting. It limits cooperation between covenants and limits them when they have interests. It's very much a system that very much has the Invictus and the Carthians in mind. These covenants seek temporal power, but the Sanctified, the Crone, the Ordo, they seek places of power. They don't seek the city of London for its monetary resources. They don't seek land for land's sake.
Yeah. Gotcha.
They seek specific locations, but are content with these locations, usually.
Oh, okay. So the current regime, although not, the current regime has balkanized.
It has advantages and it has disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue is the obstacle of this debate goes on throughout this whole event. This is by far and away the most tense discussion because it affects the dual loyalties of these kindred, their loyalty to their sect, which to many supersede their loyalty to the clan, which they never had a choice in. There is another obstacle that comes up in this debate, and that being Thackeray, who is the current true leader of the Carthians, because she's the one leading the war effort. And of course, the immediate question is raised, is she seriously going to let Stanford just walk away and become Invictus Prince? Would any of the Carthians let that happen? Hell, Morales clearly doesn't support it. She thinks he's going to be a Carthian leader within the domain once the war is over. He's in the eyes of the Carthians, and even Morales, his representative here, he is leading something of a revolution. Yet, of course, there is the contradiction that Verve is the one leading the actual war. And it doesn't take long for it to come up that Stanford was not elected to lead the war. How can there be any guarantee that he will lead the domain once the domain is taken by the Carthians, if it is taken at all? And what on earth could push Stanford to become an Invictus in the first place? That doesn't seem to make any sense. That's just illogical. It's just not a logical statement. And yet, Avitus is speaking it as if it is fact. And Stanford isn't here to confirm or deny either way, but his representative is. And seems hostile to the very notion, implying that Stanford is hostile to the very notion. So it is a vote upon which you have very limited information.
Mm-hmm.
The Chonk has no clue about any of this because he just sticks with his little supper club.
Yeah.
He's going to remain quiet and just pay the law of the land. He has no idea. He's well out of his depth on this one. He doesn't understand it. He's just going to keep quiet.
Do you want, if you are remaining quiet then, do you want to roll me wits plus socialize?
I do have both of those.
Excellent.
Would I know a geezer come in handy?
Oh, pardon?
Oh, he's got a specialty. I know a geezer.
Not in this situation, no.
That's absolutely fair. I was being cheeky.
You're just sort of observing the social interactions and relationships and dynamics between people. You're not really trying to use it to... You're not really trying to carouse with people by using in a pre-existing relationship.
That's absolutely fine. I was just being cheeky.
That's fine.
Yeah. Mr. Ryans for Oh, sorry.
Unsuccessful on the chonk.
Okay, you succeed. The relationship between the five kindred. Ganesh is the most outside of his circle. Not a satellite, but not as deep into the realm. Not as closely intertwined with these other four kindred.
4 successes, since Marcus is just hanging back and observing.
So he's going to not take a vote either.
Put it that way. It does strike Marcus very odd that that Stanforth is being talked about as basically as an Invictus Prince. If they would have said, that they're pushing to support him to be the next leader under whatever title, I don't know, President, Primus Inter Pares, or whatever, that would have been fine. But there are some just stuff that doesn't seem to be properly adding up. And he's also got the feeling that he's so low down the totem pole that that he'd probably just do more harm than good if he gave his 2 cents on the matter. So he's just observing, keeping his hands and his mouth to himself.
Okay. Then, what you both see. 1 second, I just need to sneeze.
Oh, good.
Plus, it's also Marcus's first clan boardroom meeting thingy, so...
But you understand now that you were brought into this meeting with a purpose. There are very few kindred with your lack of status here, who also seem to be brought in here with a specific purpose, or as representatives for a more powerful, esteemed Ventrue, who couldn't attend.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you both see, Ganesh is outside of all this. A lot of his... But he and Esther seem to share a certain understanding about that which they spoke with Stanton, whereas Gauntlet seems hostile to it. Clearly, Grimold supports Ganesh and his career within the Ordo.
Makes sense.
Their relationship is one based upon professionalism, their careers, their place within their covenants, not one of family or blood or lineage, dynasty, and inheritance. No, it is very much based upon political aims that they both have for each other. Something that Gauntlet clearly opposes. Morales and Avitus being largely uninterested, although Avitus seems to remain within the intrigue, if only because Stanton seems to be personal to him, due to their old friendship back in the Knights. Now, what's most interesting is that Grimold and Avitus seem to share a certain understanding whenever Stanford and Valerius are brought up. It is not just a certainty that Avitus has, but you can see it in Grimold as well. She seems to believe his words, or at the very least, seems to share his sentiment. Morales opposes Grimold on a sort of respectful level, but it is clear that she sees her as an obstacle. There is a degree of jealousy there. Particularly when Stanford is mentioned. And with Gauntlet, she opposes Stanford and the goals of Grimald Avitus. Not really the goals of Avitus, but rather his statements completely. She is sort of like Ganesh. She is close to being an outsider but not because of her. For different reasons. You see, Ganesh is the way they seem to treat him, that as if he is newer, lesser.
Mm-hmm.
Too dissimilar from yourselves, but with much more respect. Cynthia, Miss Gauntlet, shouldn't use her last name really.
Mm-hmm.
She is on further to the outside of this circle because of her positions, because of her steadfast support for the prince. Clearly, this is a point of conflict between her and Grimald. Grimald doesn't seem to share that loyalty, despite being a high-ranking Invictus. And Morales clearly doesn't support the prince at all. Supports Gauntlet and is quite happy to accept whatever scraps and openings in their conversations that Grimald gives her. But Morales is clearly suspicious of Grimald and doesn't trust her at all. Again, that resentment, that jealousy rises to the surface just enough for it to become noticeable. Clearly, both Gauntlet and Morales would rather see Grimald removed from the picture. Because they both, because they oppose her, but for different reasons. For his part, Ganesh doesn't seem to have a stake in it.
Makes sense. But Chonk will just lean back on his chair, taking this all in. It's been a while since he's been for a Ventrue meeting again. People normally go to him.
The social dynamics in play here are quite fascinating to watch. You could really only get this from Kindred.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what you get. Write it down because I'm not fucking repeating it.
No. It's fine. It's fine. That's why we record these scenes. But
no, you're not repeating them.
Exactly. Just wanted to think that as this is going on, Marcus is leaning a little more and more into the chair, just observing, just letting the others focus on each other, and for not being a mechhead, just basically meld, slowly become part of the background, and just observe, and I guess in his mind it is fascinating, sort of from a kindred anthropological point of view. It's also interesting to see that, and then somewhere in his mind there is also just like an there is just a mental eye rolling, since let's just say his mortal temperament was never terribly for overly done politicking. He always was more a man of action after he did a good amount of planning. That was always the part he looked most forward to. So his thoughts will start wandering about the new information, or at least possible information he was given, and is already starting to work on his tactic, how he'll approach trying to find his sire, and how he'll go about it, including factoring the possibility that the other two ordos will probably want to have in, and how to deal with that. So just leans back and waits and until the other Ventrue have basically exhausted themselves.
So, with that, those among the Ventrue permitted to vote, certainly not those outside this particular meeting, a rare privilege for all of you. Comes back split. It appears the board is indecisive. To which Grimald simply states, "Then may the best venture win."
Love it.
Each of us among the clan may come to their own individual accord as who to support. I hope you make the right decisions. But I will lay down this. At the end of this conflict, whomever among us succeeds, may they be magnanimous in victory and act within the interests of the clan entire. We will see whom is most worthy among us to place the crown upon this new prince, whomever they may be. But that is all, I believe, unless anybody wishes for any clarifications to this meeting. Those among your appointed tasks. Know what you must do.
We will give a polite nod.
Followed by a second polite nod.
Report to myself on the matter once you have. She looks at Gauntlet and then emulates her words. Results for us. But until then, I, as the current chair of this board, call this meeting to a close. We appreciate your attendance. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you.
The various Ventrue begin to get up, begin to depart. And I think, unless anybody has anything else to add, that would be a good place to end our scene.
I think that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time.